Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursaleen. Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Tasliman kathiran kathira. Fama ba'du. My brothers and sisters, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Jalla Jalaluhu told us why He created us. And He said in the famous ayat of Surah Al-Zariyat, which we all know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that I, Allah, did not create the jinn and the insan, the human beings, except that they should worship me alone. Allah said that He created us for only one reason, one purpose, and that is to worship Him as it is His right to be worshipped. Now, in order that we can fulfill this purpose of our creation, of worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala completely, totally, and nothing else, He, Jalla Jalaluhu, sent us Islam and told us to follow it completely in all aspects of our lives. He said, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu dhulu fis silmi kaffatan وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا خُطُوَاتِ الشَّيْطَانِ إِنَّهُ لَكُمْ عَدُوٌّ مُبِينٌ. O you who believe, enter perfectly into Islam in every aspect of your life and do not follow the footsteps of Shaitan. Verily, he is to you a plain enemy. My brothers and sisters, we seem to live in a time where we have made the deen subservient to our lives and to ourselves and to our desires. We seem to believe that simply doing personal acts of worship, and that also when it is convenient to do so, is sufficient for us. Why then did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala order the believers to enter Islam completely and perfectly? After all, we are believers because we entered Islam. Then what does it mean to enter Islam completely and perfectly? Let us remember that Islam is a practice. It is a complete way of life that touches every aspect of our lives. It is something that we can take the help of and rely on for every decision that we need to make, be it domestic or public or administrative or business or anything else. Islam shows us the way. I remind myself and you that the purpose of life is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as it is His right to be worshipped, in the way taught to us by His messenger Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. That is the essence of the kalima tayyiba, La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. When we bear witness that only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is worthy of worship, we worship Him alone, without any partners, because He has no partners. And when we bear witness that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is His messenger, the last and final of all messengers, after whom there is no Nabi and no Rasul, we prove that by worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the way that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us to worship Him. That is why Salah is so critically important, because it is the physical manifestation of the kalima tayyiba, the demonstration of tawheed. This principle of worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the way taught by His messenger sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam is extended in Islam to every aspect of life. So we obey Allah in every aspect of life. We obey Allah in the way that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam did. That is the essence of entering Islam completely. To understand what went wrong, first a bit of history. The Industrial Revolution, 1760 to 1840, is a very critical period in the modern history of humanity. 1760 to 1840. The Industrial Revolution was more than moving from handmade to machine-made. It changed three critical things: the time of day, family dynamics, and method and content of education. These changes are almost never mentioned but they are far more important than the invention of the assembly line and literally changed our society in ways that one can safely say are irreversible. Now, what are these changes? Prior to 1760, society by and large was mostly, or almost everywhere in the world, society was mostly agrarian, based on agriculture. If you want to see what that was like, I strongly advise you to visit the Amish people in Pennsylvania or elsewhere. They are people who decided not to change. Whether that is for the good or not is for you to decide, and I'm not going to describe it here in detail because for a proper understanding, it is essential to visit an Amish settlement. They welcome visitors, and tourism is a source of income for them, so please go and visit them. I can assure you that it will be very interesting. The Industrial Revolution changed the time of day from sunrise to sunset to shift start to knock off time in the factory. Your day could begin at 2 a.m. and end at 2 p.m. Your night starts from 2 p.m. onwards when the sun is high up in the sky, or whatever the shift time was. Post Industrial Revolution, at least one parent never saw their kids awake. This is also how the latchkey kid was born. A kid with the door latch key on a tape around his neck, who lets himself into an empty house when he gets off the school bus. He or she takes food from the fridge and gives himself over to the television or now to the mobile phone. It is estimated that in America, schoolboys watch an average of 4 pornographic movies every week. Let me leave you to figure out what that means in so many ways. As you can see, it was not only about the time of day, but all that came with it. The second thing it took away was the primacy and value of parents as being their children's teachers, and guides, and life skill coaches, and breadwinners, and supervisors. That role inspired respect and gratitude for parents. It ensured that the values of family and community and culture and religion were alive and continuously reinforced. Work was divided between men and women, boys and girls, and they learned different life skills from their mothers and fathers and aunts and uncles. This also ensured that the bonds of family were strong and everyone, no matter how old or young, had a place and value. Parents were valued as role models. Then, elderly grandparents, before I go there, elderly grandparents were not shunted off to an old people's home and left there to die alone. They had influence in all family decisions. They were the repositories of family and community history, customs, and traditions, and were consulted for their wisdom. Serving them was considered an honor, and children were eager to spend time with them and listen to stories which served the dual purpose of entertainment as well as being a powerful means of learning important lessons. To this day, I recall with great happiness my time with my grandparents, now more than 55 years ago. With the Industrial Revolution, parents went to work. Children no longer knew exactly what their parents did. They almost never entered the parents' workplace. They did not learn life skills or even religion from parents. They were sent off to a school where one unrelated adult taught 30, 40, 50 children. He or she taught a set curriculum and inculcated his or her own values, which sometimes were totally alien to the child's culture and tradition. For religious study, they were sent off to an after-school maktab or Sunday school, or the local imam came home to teach them to read Quran by character recognition, not meaning, not understanding. Religion was no longer intrinsic to their lives, but an extra chore to be done when it couldn't be sidestepped. To use religion as a guide for worldly life became alien and foreign. What added to this was that those who teach religion often come from the poorest strata of society and have no education other than what they study in the madrasa, and so have no idea how to link religion to worldly affairs with a view to showing the way. That has resulted in our current situation, where most Muslims have no knowledge of even the most basic matters of deen. And inadvertently, we created a priestly class in a religion that has no priesthood. In the post industrial revolution society, there was neither time nor place for the elderly, and they became a burden and so were sent off to be cared for by paid employees. Values of family loyalty, cohesiveness, culture, manners, even family relationships, and the privilege and responsibility that came with them all went out the window. Even family FaceTime became a scarce commodity because of the conflict of work and school times and demands of both places. Homes became de facto hotels where inmates came and went at will. If you and your family and your home are not comparable to this, then make shukr to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What I am talking to you about is the general situation today in almost everywhere in the world. Educators removed God from the equation by promoting atheism in the name of science and stigmatizing what they called blind faith. They did not acknowledge that true belief is based on knowledge and is not blind at all. The confusion of often contradictory philosophies supplanted the clarity of revelation and shouted down those who preferred the word of Allah to the ideas of men. Most general education became pedantic and theoretical unless one went to a trade school. And children graduated and graduate to this day with almost no skills and as a result deficient in self-confidence. In an agrarian society, children learn to work with their hands and with animals and other people and learn skills which give them confidence. Teenagers are given serious responsibilities that impact their families and communities, and they earn respect. In the post industrial revolution society, childhood merely gets delayed, and so called children in their 20s are still dependent on their parents in multiple ways. With the advent of technology and technology education, children were driven further and further away from God and traditional religion. The new religion is called modernism, which seeks to teach its theories as dogma and fact. It is totally materialistic, hedonistic, and worships desire, which in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called this shirk. أَرَأَيْتَ مَنِ اتَّخَذَ إِلَهَهُ هَوَى أَفَأَنْتَ تَكُونُ عَلَيْهِمْ وَكِيلًا. In Surah Al-Furqan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, have you seen those who have taken their desire as an object of worship? Are you going to intercede for them? Are you going to be their wakil? Meaning, Allah is saying, do not intercede for them. This is our modernism, the worship of desire. To fulfill desire is the ultimate goal of life, to which end all effort is directed. Now, Islam sticks in the craw, in the throat of modernism, as it not only presents a model of behavior based on belief in our Creator, Jalla Jalaluhu, the glorious and magnificent, but a model which covers every aspect of life for us to adhere to it and be accountable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala after death. Modernism seeks to supplant revelation with science and philosophy, thus placing man on par with God, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And often, as in the case of Darwinism, theories masquerading as fact are taught as dogma instead of theory. Sadly, as I mentioned earlier, the fact that our scholars, our Muslim ulama, are not educated in science and philosophy, this is a major handicap in answering the questions that are raised. The result is that our children are confused and conflicted, and many leave the deen in all but appearance. Today, as I speak, we have entered another far more persuasive, and powerful revolution, that of artificial intelligence in all its forms. Be it automation, augmented reality, and metaverse, it is creating a world that is increasingly further and further away from reality from human contact and relationships. Social media is a tool to enhance the illusion of action, the illusion of popularity, and the illusion of influence, and take away the real power from action so that the manipulators can have a free hand once the forwarder and the tweeter have forwarded and tweeted and gone back to sleep. The illusion of action takes away edge from the need to act, and no result ensues. After all, which tweet put bread on the table or relieved anyone from suffering or from oppression? People today believe in conspiracy theories more than in scientific research or the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And trust is the most devastating casualty. The result of spreading distrust is not that people distrust one source, but they distrust everyone. And that is what we are seeing today. Nobody is trusted, neither government, nor clergy, nor scientists, nor academics, not even parents and community elders. That makes people even more vulnerable to manipulation. And this is the reason why we see a new theory of world control every week. My brothers and sisters, I remind myself and you that the world ahead is more and more complex and complicated. And our life experience as parents will be of little value to our children unless we can conceptualize it into lessons that they can apply in their lives. The need for parents to spend more time with children, to understand their world, to upgrade their own knowledge and understanding of the new world is critical if they want to retain connection with their children. Simply paying bills is not sufficient. It was never sufficient, it is even less sufficient now. Remember that once kids get disconnected from you, to get them back is progressively more difficult. If they don't see you as role models, they will find others that you will not even know about. And those others will teach them things that will make your hair go white overnight if you knew what it was. Don't let it come to that. Do not let it come to that. There are enough horror stories of parents who have discovered what their children did and what happened to them far too late to be able to change any of that. Don't put yourself in that situation. The solution is to get connected to the masjid, you and your children, and accompany your children. Accompany your children. Don't just send them off. Accompany your children to all sessions of learning that the masjid does. You need to learn as well as they. And if you do it together, that will create a bond. The masjid must not only be a place of entertainment and socialization. Its primary purpose is to keep us connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, and to help us to apply Islam in our lives. Support all such activities not simply by donating money, but by donating your time, your company, your talent, your interest. Remember that you are not donating anything to anyone else. You are donating it to yourself and your children. Ask yourself if you and your children are worthy of your time and resources. The need to be connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is even more urgent and critical. But our lifestyles and technology cover the akhirah with an ever thicker curtain. That won't change the fact that the akhirah is real, just as we will meet it. Just that if we do not remove this cover, we will meet the akhirah unprepared and pay for that very dearly. That is why it is critical that we break out of the intoxication we call life and look at the reality called akhirah, and remind ourselves that it is not merely a concept, but something that we will face whether we like it or not. To be forewarned is to be forearmed. We must wake up and act, not wake up and still lie in bed. Wake up and act. Take action. It is wisdom to prepare for the inevitable. And the alternative does not bear contemplation, let alone experiencing. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Jalla Jalaluhu to help us to understand what has happened to our world, what we have done wrong, and to enable us and give us the wisdom to change that, both for ourselves and even more importantly, for coming generations ahead. Going forward, life is only going to get more and more complex, not less, more and more complicated, not less, and more the need for guidance, the need for criteria of good decision making is going to be more and more critical. Alhamdulillah, we have a religion where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us that guidance and gave us that criteria. The Quran and the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. All that remains is for us to understand it and to apply it in our lives. وصلى الله على نبي الكريم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين برحمتك يا رب.